I am completely dedicated at this time in my life to find why we see similarities between religious and myth teachings from antiquity. There's a template. There's actually two templates, and I've zeroed in on them. I'm analyzing it to the point that I know what the template is now. It's based on the human life and the human healing. And what I'm doing is extracting that template. This template precedes every religious teaching that there is, because every one of them is based on this. Who was first? The template was first. However, the religions and the myths and the spiritual teachings, they sound different, yet have some similar components in there. That's because they're using different analogous terms to obscure the template, but it's not obscured in all the places so much that we can't see it. It's still visible in some places. Remember, they're thousands of years ago, they're doing this word of mouth. They're not looking at this pile of stuff from all over the world like we are. They've got a small amount of stories. They're passing them around verbally. The stories are structured in such a way that it's easier for us to analyze them in different ways. But they have something going on that's deep. I'm going to talk about that in this video. The analysis of Genesis continues. I'm not quite ready to do the flood story, but I'm looking at some things here that I want to share. It's kind of exciting. It's some more revelations that are going along the lines of everything that we're kind of theorizing so far. It has to do with numbers. 7. Everybody on board with that? Been following my work? 7 is a very specific time frame. The number 7 actually appears 735 times, I think it is, in the Bible. And that's just an inordinate amount. That should get your attention right there. And there's actually a place where people are listing, here's all the times 7 is found. They're religious kind of places that you go to and you thank them. They're finding all the places that are referencing back here. They're helping spot the patterns in the templates. They don't know that. Okay, 7 is going to represent something different. As I say this, you can go look at 7 and look at interpretations, and the reason they don't sound anything like what I'm talking about is because I'm doing something different. I'm interpreting it inward on the psyche and treating 7 as if it doesn't mean 7, but that it means something else, that it's holding a meaning that you find out by putting it into the story and finding the repetition of it and seeing where it fits on a template and realizing what it means that way. And it always appears in a story where it looks like it ties back to the end of 7-day creation. And what do we have at 7-day creation? We have where we are individuals, that is us, naked, unashamed, in the garden, and combined, Adam and Eve. That is our childhood self, happy, not connected to the world. We are not attached to life experiences yet. And of course, people that follow my work, but that if you haven't seen this video before, naked means uncovered. Spiritual world, physical. We have to make a transition. If it goes into the psyche, it's no longer about being really naked. In fact, the term will trip you up because you think, ooh, it's not good to be naked, when actually in the spiritual realm, it's always good to be naked or covered in something that is pure and clean, never dirty garments or never covered up. Covering up represents hiding things. I have shame. I have hurt now. I got anger. I got stuff that now we're starting to put garments on. Naked means we don't have that. Garden of Eden, initial state of being, happy, bliss. It's not a location. It is a state of being. It's a location in the world that is in your mind, your perception to the world. And that 7 is going to represent that time. So in the stories, instead of them saying, go back to your happy point, they're going to say, because that's ridiculous. And ultimately, if I think about it, this is unattached. Teachings, spiritual teachings tell us to let go, stop clinging, stop hanging on to things, stop mentally grasping stuff. That's what our problem is. 7 is a time in our life, in our existence, where we had not started doing that yet. This is a time where we are free and not grabbing on to the physical life up here mentally to where we are living in anguish. It's not physical, it's mental. They're going to say, take 7 days here, do 7 something here, 7 there, 7 something. To find the kingdom of heaven within, do so as a child 7 days old. The 7s are going to continue to look like, man, they tie back to a point right here. And that's just for the person seeking the information to come through here. As the storyteller, there's something else going on as well. 7-day creation also comes bundled with the levels of what you are, the higher being, the lower being, the things that we have named, the fact that things cycle, the things that cause and effect, all of that are at 7. 7 is a starting point that comes bundled a lot. We are at a mental point, and we got these tools. Let's take the trip. Then life begins. The 40s, talked about that. 40 is another one of those. Well, this always shows up in a funny way. 40 days in the desert, 40 for Jesus, 40 years for the Israelites, 40 days Moses meditated in the mountains in the desert or praying to God. The rain for 40 days and 40 nights that starts right here in the flood, that starts that whole sequence of things going on. They're repeating a teaching so repetitively that it would hit you in the head. They are teaching it over and over again in different ways. And that's what I see now. In fact, that's what everybody sees. As we're looking into antiquity and going, damn, there's some patterns there. That's exactly why. We just haven't looked into it and analyzed why. We haven't interpreted what is going on. We always look at it from the outside thinking they're cheating, they're stealing, they're borrowing, they're copying, they're doing something else. What is it? They're using a template. There's something deeper going on than cheating and stealing. Stories. At the core level, whoever wrote Hinduism would be friends with whoever wrote Buddhism or Taoism or Judaism or the Enuma Elish from Babylonia. The template, whoever knows the template knows the real deal. Okay, in order for me to make it so this video doesn't get too long, I have to just cut to the chase. It's a big buildup. It's such a big process. I'm still trying to figure it out too. So you see me go all over the place sometimes, and it's because I don't quite have a handle on it yet. But I'm going to show you some things that are emerging right here. I'm going to pull up a copy of the Genesis that I downloaded, and I'm doing some work with and modifying right here. And what I have right here actually goes from the first creation story, Genesis chapter 1, verse 1, in the beginning, and all the way up to chapter 11, verse 32. And I ended it right there. That is the end of the chapter on the Tower of Babel, and then from there is a procreation going on and emerging from there. Okay, that's what I have posted right here then. And what I'm going to do is take a look, and I'm going to highlight some things for you to see. And I've done this on previous videos. I'm not covering. There's certain parts I want to show you that I haven't shown you before. So, all right, this is visual. If you're just listening, it's better to watch this. I've got some pictures to look at here. What I've done is I've restructured that, and I've put that whole section that I just put from creation all the way to the end of the Tower of Babel there and the spread out. I've split them up into what I have identified as the individual human life template. That's the top. That is from creation till God is ready to kill the planet off, the earth, destroy it, start over. Then the next line that's in blue, that is the monomyth. There's 2 callings of Noah. I've got that so that'll be elsewhere. There's something added in there. And it ends after the flood is done and God has made his covenant with Noah, and that finishes. And then I've got down there in green, I'm going to set that. I'm not going to identify that right now. I'm just going to leave that as the Tower of Babel and what happens after there. Now, let's take a closer look at a couple of things. Right up here in the first creation story is where the 7s develop. That's where I say that, that 7s, those need to go through. And that they mean something very specific. Those don't appear in the second creation story. They appear in the first creation story. Okay, it's an analog, and we know that it is, but it's being sent along in the story. It's going to be very fun to watch what they're doing here. So the first thing I want to look at then is I'm going to highlight the 2, there's actually 2 callings, and that's other videos as well. And I'm going to suggest that the first creation and the second calling were added in because they match. There's more. That's another video. I'm not quite there yet. But the 7s come from the creation, and then right down here, Noah is being told, let's see what that looks like and how I get to that, actually. Remember, it's a storytelling culture. If I'm listening to this, something is going to get my attention. And when I'm hearing this being repeated to me, and on the 7th day, God finished all the work that he had done, and he rested on the 7th day from all the work that he had done. So God blessed the 7th day and hallowed it, because on it God rested from all the work that he had done in creation. There is no doubt in my mind as I listen to that story, I just heard 7 3 times. Pop, 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 like, what? That really jumped in there. That gets my attention. So what do? I cheat. I go do a find. I go look for 7s in this area, and what pops up? This right here shows up in the second creation story, the one that sounds different than the first one. The first one that he's told to bring pairs of animals, and this one he's told something a little different. Take with you 7 pairs of all clean animals, male and female, its mate, and a pair of animals that are not clean, the male and its mate, and 7 pairs of the birds of the air, also male and female, to keep their kind alive on the face of all the earth. For in 7 days it will rain on the earth, and then after 7 days. So I got 7s popping up back down in here again, which looks to me like, all right, they are sending that idea of 7s along on this monomyth, on this healing path. Makes sense to me. If that's the case, then it would have to continue to appear downstream. And of course, I absolutely realize that I am suggesting that there is a heavy structure framing this. I do. All right. We look for the 7s down at the Tower of Babel, and we don't have it. I look and go, okay, well, that's fine. I don't know that I see a flow there. 7 has still been established. You can still come along later and tell somebody, become that child 7 days old. Oh, 7 days. I got it. Okay. That can happen. However, in the story here, it looks like whoever is writing it is making sure that something is getting passed along. Watch this. I'm going to read something. This is after the first monomyth. I'll just set this up. So I'm on the monomyth. I'm Noah. I'm the one that has to turn inward and grab these things. I'm grabbing 7 of this because I'm bringing it along with me, because I'm going to have to continue to do this. This is not one cleansing that's going to take care of it. It's going to take a lot of cleansing. So I'm going to need to keep the tools with me as I go along. That's going to be built into the story. All right. So I get downstream here, and the flood comes and goes, and it wipes everything out, and there's a new purging. Then what happens at the end? Noah is naked in his tent after drinking. He grows a vineyard. What is this relative to? This is relative to now we are on the other side. I've grown a new field, my new field up here, and I consume from what is from that, and it makes me feel good. I'm not only feeling good, but I'm also naked, which means I'm uncovered. That's a good thing right there. That's a healing complete. However, what we have is the sun's going to cover him. It's going to fail. Something's going to happen. But at some point in time, what do? Watch this. What does this sound like? Then God said to Noah and to his sons with him, "As for me, I am establishing my covenant with you and your descendants after you, and with every living creature that is with you, the birds, the domestic animals, and every animal of the earth, with you as many as came out of the ark with you. I establish my covenant with you, that never again shall all flesh," jump down, "this is the sign of the covenant that I make between you," jump down, "and it shall be the sign of the covenant between me and the earth. I will remember my covenant that is between me and you. I will remember the everlasting covenant between God and the everlasting creature. This is the sign of the covenant that I..." Did you count that there was 7 times covenant was used right there? And if I do my search, it's like, oh, there's 9 times. What? And then I go, oh, I made a mistake because I added one in by labeling this. I got to be careful. There are only 8. Where's the other one? Yeah, right up here in the other Noah monomyth calling. They linked them. They sent 7 ahead, and they changed. They sent it by just saying covenant 7 times. And covenant coming from one of the 2 callings that doesn't have the 7s, while the 7s are in the other one. So it's taken the 7s from one and the covenant from the other one and combined them. Son of a... Okay, so now 7 and covenant share the workload. 7s are going to mean to get back to that place. Covenant is going to mean to get back to that same place. Okay, I don't want to get too far off track. Tower of Babel is the next time that we have an issue. So what we had is we were Noah. Everything was okay. We felt good. Everything was fine. Our new selves, however, took over. We resolved an issue. We felt wonderful. Time goes by, and now it's like, God, I got something else hanging on. So that's what's happening next. We have to decay again, but it's got to be a different story. In this case, with the Tower of Babel, we've got something that we can look at how they're creating the analogs and how it becomes so important for this to be a culture. Now, in the story, what it starts out is everybody in the beginning speaks one language. They try to build a tower up to God. God sees it and goes, oh my God, they're cooperating. We can't have that. I'm going to destroy them and spread them apart so that they have different languages and they can no longer work together. Why would God do that? First of all, because they're trying to build a tower to God. They're not, yeah, that's kind of silly. If you take it out in the psyche, you look at it and realize the tower represents me, the construction of me. And in the beginning of my life, I'm combined. I agree with myself. As life goes on, I am building this structure that is to existence that is in the physical world. It's not internal. It's about trying to reach life, God, happiness, something through physical means. And that the higher being sees that, destroys it, and scatters it around. Now that part is destroying again for the next setup. We just went through a flood. Now we're going to go through a tower destruction. Something else is going to have to keep happening downstream. It's going to structure this way. But in their culture and around, they can see the remains of ziggurats. And you could look around knowing that religions, they separate by creating an enemy of their past. Usually. Yeah, that's how it happens. If they're not sharing material and they're creating their own, then whoever they emerge from is their enemy. So what do? They say, yeah, you look around, you see something here in the environment. The ziggurats are already there. You just create that story. People are already speaking different languages. Why not just say that God made that happen? And the people in the culture are going to carry that. Well, meanwhile, it's still nesting something in there. While it's obviously can't be physically true in any way, shape, or form, but there's historical evidence of it. Yeah, that's why the story was made at the time the remains were there. That's all. Okay. This one was quite by accident as I'm going through and I'm just kind of making corrections, taking out the verses and all of that. At first I started making corrections on the so and the therefore because there were not commas. And there's a thus and things like that. And I realized, you know what? That's an error that is in my favor. That is so, thus, so, therefore. This is cause and effect. This is cause and effect emerging in the verbiage. Okay, I don't know what that means yet. I just saw it up ahead. And I thought, well, that's going to be fun to play with. Let's see. What else do we have? All right, here's another part that I'm seeing emerging. I'm going to go back and show this now. I've got back to each of the templates. The top one, the red one, is the human life template and framework instructions. And the blue one, the second line, self-healing path, also known as the monomyth. That's the one people most commonly recognize, although there's components in the first one. There's two separate myths, not just one. And then there is the green down below. That's our next cycle of need to turn inward. So this is where the network looks like it's going to begin. Now, if I step back and take a different look at something, I pull those away and I look and I'm going to identify something different here. All of those green spots that I've identified are lineages. At the end of each event is a lineage. Now, the upper right one has one line beyond it. That's when God decided to destroy everything because it had gotten too bad. So the lineage had happened previous to God wanting to destroy things. Now, if we look at Noah, we see that the destruction happens. And after that, after Noah is after life is done and Noah dies and everything is moving on, there's a next lineage. And then there's another destruction. And then there's another lineage. So I got a feeling if we look at these as we go through, every time we find lineages, we're going to find the end of a next path, possibly. How silly is this? Okay. You see how I'm analyzing this, but it's still also an interactive process. I can think of what else. I just saw those things, and when I saw that, I couldn't figure out some things, and there's still stuff with, let me say it this way. I am of a mind now as I go through this that all of the terms in there, like when Noah's told to build the ark and there's sizes and things like that each of those is an analogous term that means something specific, but it doesn't mean what it said. It had 3 decks, right? Remember that? The trilogy. You've got the higher being, the conscious, and the subconscious, all of that is being maintained in the structure of, this is you. You are the ark. Build yourself this way, fill yourself with this, and then I'll drown out the rest. Meet you on the other side, crossing the threshold. Yay, that feels good. I'm wonderful. Woo, I feel wonderful. I'm stripped naked. Yep, here it comes again. Now my new offspring, as myself dies off and the new offspring takes over, this represents the new part of me that, my old self was the person that needed to resolve that. And then for a moment I felt the glory. Then I became a new self. And then the lineage happens, which denotes time goes by. More stuff happens, and then eventually you go, I got to do this too. Is that right? How fun. Okay. I don't know what else to say on this video. It is a puzzle, but you know what? I'm handling it in a way that the more I look at it, the more I look. It seems like it's a structure. This is a good time too to mention the difference in the analogs. We just had a flood story, and then we had a destruction of a tower. Both of them represent the same thing. They're both widely different, quite variable sounding analogous terms that fit on the template in the same way because they both represent the destruction. You play it out in the psyche. The earth is my existence. The tower is my frame of thinking, my existence, my mental state of who and what I am. And the representation of drowning out the earth, you could say, is wiping out everything. That's what it sounds like. But the stories continue on. Ultimately, you're not going to go back and wipe out everything. You're not going to go back to your childhood and say, I'm starting over. You're going to have to go back and weed through it all. Sadly, yeah, to get it out. I mean, you can take care of big stuff, and then you find out, I still got little things in the background. There's still stuff not quite right. The pathway is meant to continue to work on that until we've extracted ourselves from our thinking. The analogous verbiage then, it represents either wiping out myself, or more accurately, it's going to be wiping out whatever it is whatever this is that's acting out. I've got to resolve it. That's going to take 40 for me to get to 7. And then I'm going to be naked. And then I'm going to get covered again. And then time is going to go by as the lineage goes by, and then I'm going to have to go do it again. How wonderful. But it leads to a place that we're looking for. An inner place. Yeah, it does. And outwardly, it's carried in many different ways. And some of the ways it's carried will also lead you to that inner place. Buddhism, you might not turn in and go, I'm going to just go address that memory. You might go through these practices that are meant to gently ease you through it. Taoism, same sort of thing. You pick up a different kind of a religion and it's suddenly, okay, I'm not going to take care of it. I'm turning it over to something different. Ooh, it went backwards. You're no longer looking inward. You're now looking outward. Yeah, however, at any point in time, anybody with that material can still use it to turn inward. Yeah, it's crazy. All right. Love one another. See you in the next video.